Here we go. Hello, everybody. Um, Happy New Year. We're into 2024, and I have a very special guest today. We've had him on before. His name is Alan Ty, and he is a physicist and a scientist. And we're going to be talking to him about a book that was made by RTB. That's called Navigating Genesis by Hugh Ross. And there's some very interesting things in there about the first day. Before I get kicked in here, though, I'd like to welcome everybody to Jaws Christ Talk. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Christ Talk on January 8th, 2024. Today, like I said, we have Alan Ty with us. I want to give a special thanks to Wingate TV, Transform You Media, Zach with Pack Channel, and Jay Stoyhan with the Disability Channel for hosting our shows. Please be sure to subscribe to our page wherever you found this. Now let's get to the show. Hello, Alan. How are you today in the new year?
Very good. Yeah, it's wonderful to start a new year with this talk so we can start understand Genesis and apply in our life better.
Right. Very good. Um, we have talked about navigating Genesis the last two podcasts, but now we're going into something very interesting, and sometimes it can be a little contentious because a lot of Christians believe that the universe was only is only 6 to 9 thousand years old, but both Alan and I believe that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and we're going to give some reasons why this is that this happened, and we're going to be using the book of that Hugh Ross wrote, Navigating Genesis. Um, the first question in here, there's actually 4 points that Alan's going to cover today. The first one was, how is initial conditions confirmed? Can you explain that, Alan?
Okay, yeah. So last section we talk about the reference point. Let's review it a bit. Yeah. So when Genesis 1 and 2, let me read to you again. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form or formless. Some Bible, same thing, without form and formless, and void. And darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the water. These two verses, so amazing, introduce how everything, including time and space, start. So when we look at it, it looks like it's very short, but so precise. Uh, the first one we already talked about the Big Bang theory in the last century that confirm more evidence to confirm it is true, same as what the Bible says. Now, the second verse, we have enough evidence from the technology to confirm this is also true. Okay, so because the verse one, God already created heaven and the earth. With the earth already created, even it didn't say the solar system or the sun, which we fill in the gap, right? With the latest discovery. But it's enough to communicate. The earth already there in verse 1, long time ago. Again, here, it didn't very detailed say when, but it just say in the beginning. Now we understand it's about 14, close to 14 billion years ago. But now the observer, it start with the Spirit of God move upon the face of the water. This particular face of the water, if you look chapter 2, very careful, it is the earth's water. okay, and the earth, right? So
Right.
what
Right.
it means, the earth was at that time was formless, uh, and void. That means with no structure, uh, with no life, void. Okay, and right now, with all the evidence we detected, compare with all the so-called, let me read you through ongoing research. Uh, through ongoing research, again, this from Navigating Genesis by Dr. Hugh Walsh, into how planets form, scientists have been able to explain and confirm not only the dark and watery, but also the formless and empty feature of early life, Earth. Technological advance in the 1970s, almost more than 50 years ago, allowed astronomers to observe this around young stellar objects. Thousands of these objects has been studied thus far, and each one is surrounded by an extensive disk of gas, dust, and debris. Theoretical study as well as observational evidence show how this disk eventually condense into planetary system. Indeed, such planetary systems are being discovered at a rapid rate. Today, astronomy have discovered more than 2,300 planets or likely planets, and have measured the physical and optical property of more than 1,000. Look in here. They have learned the planet as massive as Earth and as distant from their host star, the Sun. Typically start with a thick, opaque, that means light blocking atmosphere, the smallest of the extrasolar planets for which astronomers have a measurement of the planet's atmosphere mass is 6.5 times more massive than Earth, and has an atmosphere at least 4,000 times healthier than Earth's atmosphere today. I skip down to the bottom line on this section. So basically, uh, the low life supporting landmass would have existed on early Earth either. Initially, all the land in Earth's rocky crust lay below the surface of the deep. Islands and continents are rose gradually. You see, gradually, 300 of millions of years as a result of volcanism and plate tectonics. Volcanism and plate tectonics driven primarily by heat from radioisotope decay in Earth's mantle generate the wrinkling of Earth's surface. This wrinkling, which eventually pushed land upward above the ocean surface, continue to this day, but at much lower rate. Okay, so this discovery, geology or planet or the space object, confirm this initial condition. The Earth, when we start, was formless. That means no structure. When you look at the Earth from the space, there's so many features. You can see the mountain, the lake, so many things. But in verse 2, the Earth is completely covered with water, and the atmosphere is so thick, it completely blocked off any light. Even the sun was there. So now we understand if our observer, which the Spirit of God, start this to look up, uh, because when he move or hover the word uh, in the surface of the deep, this start the initial condition to look up. Everything was dark, everything was formless, everything was low life. Okay, at that time. So who can tell us except the Creator? I mean, human being, not
Right.
even
Right.
start, not even virus, not even material exists in verse 2. Okay, the earth is completely, I mean, formless
Yeah.
and void, no life, not even anything, because there's no sun, everything was dark under the water, all the structure, all the mountain uh, was under buried in the deep water. Okay, until God do something, which we will see in the subsequent days. That God did something to
Right.
start
Um,
all this.
um, Astronomy says that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, but our solar system is 4.5 billion years old.
Mhm.
So, okay, the solar system and the Earth is here at this point when God is hovering above the deep. Um,
Yeah, exactly. There's no conflict with the scripture and the science, because if we understand interpret this way, uh, the Earth, because this can be, even it's not mentioned how many years, because at that time, people don't really care about, don't understand billion years ago. Uh,
yeah,
for people live in Moses' time, so God only focus what is important. Okay, and the detail
okay,
is
okay,
filled up
yeah,
by the scientists now,
okay.
and it's
Um,
confirmed. This is
when I
correct.
when I talk to Genesis, that says that God spoke the universe into being. He spoke it. And I talk to people about the Big Bang, and the science calls it the cosmological singularity, that it happened at one specific point in time. And that's what Genesis is also saying, that it happened at one specific point in time. And this all didn't come about until about 1920 with Einstein coming up with the Big Bang itself. And it caused so much confusion in his mind, he wanted to eliminate that sidecar. Um, but my question, and now science has accepted it, most by the 1970s, they accepted it that the universe actually began at one specific point in time. They called it the universe always being here as a steady state. Um, but the thing is, when if the universe started at one specific point in time, like Genesis is also saying, then the question is, who pulled the trigger? Who pulled the trigger for the universe to get its start? Because things can't just pop into from nothing. So the universe is as enormous and gigantic as it is, it could not have just happened out of nothing. So that's what the big question is, and a lot of debates happen about that are raging today. That the universe started at one specific point in time. So that points to a creator, an intelligent designer that's behind all of this. Okay, um, let's go on to point number two. How long are the creation days? So if you don't mind talking about that, it comes from the book. It says the Hebrew noun yam, translated today in Genesis 1, is no exception. It has four distinct literal definitions. So when we're talking about the day age, the day when it's talking about it doesn't really say what it is, but it actually does if you go further into Genesis and other places in the Old Testament. Um, there's four that it talks about. One, part of the day hours, for example, from noon to 3 p.m., or all the daylight hours, or a 24-hour period. And number four for the word yam is a long but finite time period. Okay, so this is the word yam. Okay, YOM. So can you expound on those four things that we're talking about here, Ellen?
Yeah, sure. So we had to be very careful when we read the Bible. We understand we had to explain or interpret the Bible accurately as much as possible. So, but throughout history, different scholar, including theological and even scientists, they interpret according to what they understand. We respect anyone is faithful to the Bible interpretation, but some somehow interpret the Bible as just 24-hour period, uh, or some just say part of the daylight hours. Okay, so that represented by the young Earth uh, creationism. They have a lot of literature uh, try to support their argument. So, as a scientist, we are open for any possibility, but only if it can verifiable and agree. Otherwise, still a theory, but based on the best evidence, particularly scientific, we understand that uh, God communicate to us this yom is a long but finite time period is more appropriate. Doesn't mean one day if the science or God reveal to us through a different channel that it is really means something else. We are open for that idea. But right now, this is the best explanation which have a harmony between the scripture, which is the final authorization, and the latest science discovery. Okay, the booklet nature. Okay, so far, I mean, science have their limitation. We believe God's revelation is fully accurate, 100% accurate. But science, as a tool, sometimes throughout history, may be interpreted wrong. But so far, with the latest technology, so we believe this is still correct. That a long but finite time period. Beside the young Earth and the old Earth, some scholar explain these verses in the days which God create uh, everything within this so-called six yom. Okay, English translate to date. Uh, Even the Chinese is uh, date also. The first day, for example. So how to view this? There's the new interpretation I read and come across is that if they say this is some kind of poetry form, okay? So if you read it as the poetry, it just figurative over percent the communication from God to us. So we may not need to really hold on to what it means the date. It can be 24 hours, it can be a period of time, but it communicates God's doing things in this pattern. Okay, and of
Right.
course, God is above time and space. He can do that in His own time, and His time is different from human's time. Okay, so uh, so what I'm saying, there's a different theory interpretation everyone will encounter, but the disadvantage of young Earth is there's a confrontation with those scientists that don't understand uh, how to interpret the Bible and just
Right.
pick up the young Earth interpretation and say, "Oh, for sure, it's not true," because from all the testing, radiology, isotope, the science discovery, the Earth definitely more than 6,000. If you interpret this way, they say, "Oh, the Bible cannot be trustworthy. It's just a superstition." That is really not the right approach. When we encounter this skeptic or atheist, okay,
Right.
so because they try very hard to discredit the Bible, whatever they mean, because they just come up with all those reasons to avoid
Um,
uh,
hold
the
it right
Bible.
there, Alan,
Yeah.
because I like what it said right after that. It said, give me a minute here because it's a little lengthy, but it'll make a lot of sense. While modern day Hebrew has two words for extended definite duration periods of
Mm,
time, in biblical Hebrew, no other word besides yam possesses meaning of a long but finite period of time.
mhm,
Therefore, if Moses wanted to communicate a creation history consistent of 6 eons, he would have no other option but to use the word yam to describe those eras. With many distinct literal definitions for so many of the Hebrew nouns, how does the reader determine which one applies in a specific biblical text? The answer lies in the grammar, sentence structure, and context. These considerations for Yam is applied in Genesis 1 creation days are addressed in chapters 9 and 10. Okay, that's
right.
very good. Something else you also said earlier, Bill, when we were talking, you said, think of it as God is building a house, okay? And
Mm,
certain things have to be constructed before he lets his children into the house to start living in it. So that's
right.
what's going on in Genesis is there's telling how he is constructing that house. Did I say that correctly in your opinion?
Yeah, that's right. So the first two words, it brings people into the introduction and the focus, how God start all this. He's a creator, and he have the wisdom. He tell us whatever we need to know, but fill in with the detail in the subsequent Bible, in the scripture. Okay, but in these two, exactly, the analogy is very good that God do so many things to start the earth, which is very unique. Right now, people using telescope to look at all the other uh, star, including those in Milky Way, our galaxy, and outside our galaxy, that no other planet so far have a discovery like the Earth, so unique. So when start from the verse 3, God, after the creation, already the creation, he used the word bara. Bara, that means create from nothing, which we covered in the past. But in here, God's speed start from the uh, as the frame of reference is in the surface of the earth. So in that case, he already prepared the material, just like the house. You buy the land, but if you just buy the land, you didn't put the house or put the material in. It's not a house. You only have the land, right? It's not ready to live anybody, not alone for your children. You may be camping there, but your baby, your children need electricity. You need water to survive. Need the refrigerator, the food. Right? All this won't be ready until you start building the house on the land. And the land at that moment, in verse 3, at that point before it start, is formless and void. So it confirmed by today's discovery, as I read earlier, that this exactly what happened to the Earth when we start. So here you go. So that's why it confirmed uh, the
Yeah,
harmony between scripture and
I,
science.
I know in the young Earth creationists who say the universe and our planet is only 6 to 9 thousand years old, and they say when you try to say something else, they say you can't go against the Bible. This is what it says. But I found out those are people that are in the King James version of the Bible. But that's not what the King James says. That's not how it was interpreted. Um,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of um, biblical scholars from the past that believe that the universe is very old. and the only
Mm.
way they could have come up with that. But there were some that believed it was very young. So when you're dealing like we're doing, trying to do here with the word yam from ancient Hebrew, what was it trying to say? And it's not a scandalous thing to come up with that. I think there's a lot of people in churches that believe that the universe is very old, but they
Right.
don't really know why. So that's what we're trying to get right here. We're trying to figure out what the ancient Hebrew was talking about, what Moses wrote down. They think Genesis was written by Moses, but what the point he was trying to get at, you know. Um, I know there's a lot of controversy in the church about this, but this is an in-house conversation. And the reason why I bring this up and why it's so important, because there's a lot of people that believe in astronomy and science and looking at all the things. One of the questions I asked people, the young earthers, I said, do you really believe the dinosaurs and human beings roamed the earth at the same time? And with as ferocious as the T-Rex and the velociraptors and some of those creatures that ate flesh, I wonder how long human beings would have lived with these huge and these ferocious animals on the planet, walking on the planet at the same time. You know, how could we have survived these hungry animals? You know, so that was just a question I had. It just didn't make sense to me. It never did. That dinosaurs and humans would roam the earth at the same time. How would we have
So actually,
survived? How would we dealt with these creatures? You know. Um,
well, actually, that brings in into the third question. So I can quickly repeat this. Uh, like why God introduced his main themes of creation and set up the basic plot uh, in such a brief introduction in Genesis 1. Uh, so one thing, as you mentioned, why God in Genesis chapter 1 didn't mention dinosaur, right? So he was in his book, chapter 4, page 37, uh, give a good discussion uh, because however intriguing this and many other story element may be, that includes the dinosaurs or human like the primates. Uh, they did not make the cut. Neither the dinosaur nor the humans lay any direct connection with Adam and Eve and their progeny. So the mention or lack of mention in Genesis 1 make no significant difference to the story's development. What's more, the Bible was written to communicate throughout the ages or throughout the generation. Only in relative recent history have people come to know about dinosaurs, homo, homos, the pyramid, and other details such as atomic particle and RNA molecule. So when Moses write this, he will bring out the most important point, and but at the same time to present the milestone. So the people after 3,500 years nowadays, when they look back, it's still correct. But he don't want to put in all the detail. Sometimes when you read, for example, a published paper, if at the beginning there are so many detail introduction, you get lost, right? So Genesis is the introduction and the foundation. So it gives us the most crucial point of God's creation, and it can be verified. So the dinosaur or not is not important in Genesis. Maybe in other part of the Bible it mentioned the big animal, but it didn't use the word particular dinosaur. Uh, so, but in here, I think it's enough. Otherwise, people get distracted. So it just in the other book, like those in the Job and Song, offer abundant amplification. That means further fill in the gap of Genesis. Uh, in fact, many or most of the information gaps modern skeptics tend to complain about are filled in by the creation passage in Job, given that Job's epic story predates Moses' written of Genesis by a few centuries or more. The summary format and narrative highlights Moses that make all the more sense. So that's why it answered the first question, why the narrative highlight Moses present in Genesis is good enough, because the other book also talk about creation with a lot more question, more detail, which also agree with the current uh, technology investigation. Like for example, the water cycle, right? The Joe is very detailed about the water cycle, and Moses don't need to repeat the whole thing in Genesis. Otherwise, it may distract people to look at the water cycle, because in here, Genesis 1, if you look back in chapter 4, the first paragraph, think of Genesis 1 as a highlight reel. Uh, you come kind of countdown from 10 to 1. 10, 9, 8, each countdown represent a milestone, fit the pattern of showing one feat after another, each more spectacular than the previous, building anticipation for the most amazing performance of all. This brief list of divine intervention by no means tell every detail of the creation story, and its brevity draw complaint from many readers. However, according to the book of Job, God's creation work are beyond human fathom, measurement, or counting. So each day describes a major transformative event and essential step closer to the final event of day 6. Okay, so chapter 4 will look at the creation day number 1 first. So uh, before we start the last question, what other comment you have, John? After I go through this uh, explanation for question number 3.
Okay. Um, you have this underline. You said before day 1 setting the stage for the first life. What happened? You wrote it there. Um, and I was reading just above that where you said those in Job and Psalms offer an abundant amplification. That's what, if you really want to get a handle on the interpretation of what Yam is, you need to go into other places in the Old Testament. It helps you to figure out what it might be trying to partake in the information.
Right.
And I like the part where you said Deuteronomy 32:11 refers to a female egg stirring up her nest and hovering over her young. And I thought that was really good. That was God that was hovering above the deep. Um, and then God bringing about life on the earth's oceans even before light shone through. How's that possible? Um, how's that possible to put life in there and to keep it alive if there is before the light shone through? How is because that life, plants were a lot of plankton and things like that, where the fish would actually need to eat to stay alive. But I guess when we're talking about Yam and the day age, some periods of time were very, very long, but other things could be a 12 or a 24-hour period where God went from one thing to the next and then slowed things up. So that's what I was trying to get out of that myself.
Well, actually, there's another scientist. His name is John Lennon. He's Oxford professor, retired, of course. But he have a very good point, which is add into one more interpretation. Because he say, if day 1 during the creation and day 2, even it's 24 hours, but in between day 1 and day 2. And God said, in between that, it could be millions of years in between the days. Of course, this is one interpretation, so that we can understand God can create things in a short time, but at the same time allow uh, a long time to settle before the next day, which will be agree with what we observe in this technology advanced evidence. Okay, but again, I don't want to make it too complicated. There's different interpretation, but regardless, we confirm that the Earth is already exists at least 4.5 billion years, and the whole universe is close to 14 billion years. Okay, all this come into being is because a divine being, he have a wisdom to bring all this material together and then start the heaven and the earth. And the earth, when at the beginning, uh, before life exists, he had to prepare in when the spirit hover, just like the eagle, move around the nest. Uh, before he built the nest, he had to estimate, is this tree, the location is right to strong enough to hold the nest. In the same analogy, God even much more smart than the eagle. Right? Eagle is just a reflection of God's creation. God calculate or decide everything, at least from the our understanding, is perfect, so that there's no mistake. It won't happen by chance. God put this earth in the right position away from the sun, so it won't be too hot and too uh, cold. Right? Just John, before we start, is cold yesterday. Well, I mean, relatively speaking, uh, our cold is still okay, can survive, right? If you really the Earth go 1% closer to the sun, it will be very hot. Phoenix will be not able to so anyone can survive in Phoenix, right? But if we go further away from 1% from the sun, we will frozen to death. I mean, no Earth, no life can exist, right? How can this happen? God just put into the right position. Okay, we will go through that in the future. And the Earth also was tilted 23.5 degrees, so that we have 4 seasons. So Phoenix won't be so boring, right?
Yeah,
Do
oh
you
yeah,
want Phoenix to be 365 days? Every day is 115 degree? No. Well, at most 1 month we can survive, but the winter give us a break, right?
yeah,
So
boy.
that we enjoy the cold weather, hiking during the Christmas. Oh, so nice! Look like Phoenix was paradise in winter, right?
Yeah,
But not in summer. Summer we can uh, hide inside the indoor with air condition right now.
right.
Uh,
If you talk
so
about the planets in our solar system, just our two neighbors, Venus on one side, which is very, very hot.
right,
It's something like 800 degrees on the surface. I was just thinking about that. And then Mercury is a different situation. It doesn't have much of an atmosphere, but it is very hot there too. And then you go on the other extreme, on the other side of us, we got Mars, and Mars is very cold. You know, it's below zero for long periods of time, and it very rarely gets up even up to 20 degrees. You know, so when they were building the different rovers and stuff like that, they had to take these things into account. Um, to what's going on and how all that works, you know. So I find that all that very interesting. Fine tuning, they call it that for life. And then we have to have the two supergiants, Saturn and the other big planet. Saturn is the one with the rings, and then you got the other huge, and those act like meteor magnets. Otherwise, all these meteors would come into our solar system and go right for our Earth. But those two big supergiants, Saturn and the other one, they they bring in the meteors so they don't strike the Earth so much. Because and the other thing I was going to bring up too was when they're talking about carbon fossil fuels. Um, when they talk about fossil fuels, it had to be able to, many dinosaurs and plants and animals had to die over many, many millions of years to build up. And now I think it was just God's way of building up things for the planet. At some point in time, we would be using these fossil fuels. So, and I know that brings up a whole different ball of wax when you're talking about climate change and all that kind of thing, about using too much fossil fuels, everything from gas to all the other type of gases, that oil and stuff like that. So that's very interesting how God planned out this planet over a period of time.
Yeah, actually, I want to read to you the last two paragraphs of day one, light come full. Recalling Earth's initial condition of darkness, and that the frame of reference for this passage is Earth's surface. We can comprehend what happened on day one. Light penetrate Earth dark. So for the first time, uh, this is exactly what God mentioned in Genesis, that in day one, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. So in here, that the light penetrate. Why it can penetrate? Because some of the debris that have previously keep light from coming through clear away, and Earth's astro atmosphere changed from opaque to translucent, not transparent yet, but able to permit light passage. Okay, so right now, uh, there's some light going through the dark cloud. The clearing of debris, astronomer can easily understand full time gravity or gravitational accretion. Too much of the dust and water material from the disk around the star into the star, in this case our sun, and into the forming planets. The change in Earth's atmosphere, however, present a conundrum. The rule of thumb in planetary formation is that the greater a planet's surface gravity and the greater a planet's distance from its star, the healthy and thicker its atmosphere. Yet Earth depart from that rule because of God's intervention, the fine tuning. Theoretically, Earth should possess an atmosphere more than twice as massive as that of Venus. Instead, it is 91 times less massive. That means our atmosphere right now is clear up. It used to be very thick with all kind of gas not suitable for life to exist. Now, God, the Spirit, bring in order. Remove away this debris, this thick atmosphere, so the light can be there. So when we say let God speak, let there be light, doesn't He create the light at this moment, because He already create at the beginning. So light was there at the beginning. But in here, it say, let there be light. That means now we can see the light coming through from the sun, because the atmosphere start to keying up. Okay, so that agree with what the latest scientist discovery. Think about, if we cannot see through the sky, it's not good for a human being. Even we live in Phoenix. We want to see the blue sky. Once a while is uh cloudy, it's okay. But the sunset and the sunrise is so beautiful because the sky was we can see the light coming through with all the debris, all the thick atmosphere cleaning up, and in the whole universe, this doesn't make sense if it occurred naturally, randomly, meaningless. Why the Earth, the atmosphere clear up all the other star and planets in the other galaxy, including ours, their atmosphere will be very thick if the planet is same distance as the Earth to the star. The, if it's a 1 AU, all the other star and planet, it won't allow any life to form because the atmosphere is so thick. But because our atmosphere is clear up by God, He create everything. It prepare day one for human being to come to life in day six. Not yet day one, because it's just like if John want to build a house for his grandchildren, he had to
Right.
buy the land, and now he had to prepare the material to set the foundation. Right, you need to have a strong foundation. You don't want the house get uh, collapse one day. You need a strong foundation, so you have to prepare. Same thing. God already prepared the earth, but it needs the light to start all the things that coming up, including the vegetation, the tree, even the virus, even the material. At certain point in time, it may be used by God to create the material necessary to prepare for human to exist and survive. So then we just finished day one. So we will more to come in the next meeting. So any concluding or comment about what we go through today, or any question to clarify for today's study?
What was that question again?
Uh, how many more minutes before we need to end this meeting so we can use that time to clarify any question?
Yeah, well, it's at 48 minutes now, so looks like we got 12 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, we can discuss it more. Any question or things that maybe need more explanation or clarification?
Um, Not from me here. I know when it was talking about the different days and that God was having human beings name the animals and stuff like that. That could not have happened in a 1 day period or a 12-hour period, because it couldn't be a 24-hour period, because half of that was dark. So the human being, Adam, would have to name all the animals within a 12-hour period. And with him studying the animals and giving them the appropriate name, that doesn't make any sense,
Right.
that he could do that in a 12-hour period.
Exactly.
That is something that would take years to name all the animals appropriately. So I just don't believe that happened in a 12-hour period.
This just one example to point us that this yom, the meaning, is more than 24 hours. There's so many other evidence from the Bible that to interpret correctly, it could be being more than 24 hours. For example, if you read chapter 2, uh, I think, let's see, if for chapter 2, uh, these are the generation of the heaven and the earth when they were created. This is verse 4. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heaven. You see, this day is singular. This is referred to chapter 1, that this day in here should be interpreted more than 24 hours. It's just in the day, right? In the day that the Lord God make the earth and the heaven, right? Because just like English also have that, when you say in the day of the Roman Empire, uh, they know how to build walls. That's
Right.
why English word have all the roads lead to woman, womb, because the day could be a period of time. That's impossible for a womb to be built in one day, right? So uh, this the understanding of English meaning, but the original context and the explanation of Yom in the day here definitely more than one 24 hour. And one more evidence is that the seventh day, the Sabbath, so-called, it didn't mention have an evening and day. Because if you read chapter 1, for example, verse uh, 5, it is, and there was evening and there was morning, the first day. Okay. But the seventh day, they didn't say there was evening and there was morning. So the seventh day is a day, the same word in Hebrew. But if without evening and morning, that means it continue. So this continued period of time is more than 24 hours, more than evening and morning. So there's so many ways to interpret that support our argument. Yom is more than 24 hours, literally.
Isn't it also there's a morning to the seventh day, but no real evening? That the it's the seventh day is ongoing. It didn't end like the rest of the other days did. There was a
Exactly. If you read the seventh day, uh, like uh, in Genesis 1, chapter 1 is only talk about the sixth day. When they talk about the seventh day, and the heaven and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work, finished his creation mainly. It doesn't mean I can this translation. It can be uh, particularly refer to his finishes creation. Okay, uh, because which he had made. Okay, and he rests on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Okay, so during the chapter 1, it, he creates so many things. He create and make. Okay, make can be use the existing material to rebuild. Okay, so just like you uh bring in the material for your house, right? But if you only have material, it doesn't help. You need to make the material become a house. Okay, so that means the seventh day is continue, just like what you say. He rests on his creation. Doesn't mean he rests everything from his work, because Hebrews in New Testament, Hebrews chapter 1, uh, he also mentioned that actually chapter 10, that he rests from his creation. But chapter 1 also mean that he Jesus Christ, he uphold the whole universe with his powerful word. So he's still doing maintenance nowadays. He didn't rest completely. He rests from his creation. Okay, the seventh day is a rest, but they don't have evening and morning, just like the other day. That means this day is much longer. If the seventh day is much longer, we don't know how long. It can be eternity, but the day before it can be a finite time, a period of time, more than 24 hours. Then this is the right interpretation. It won't limit God's uh, revelation to just 24 hours. I believe God reveal us using the Hebrew word, even if it is have a different four uh, interpretation at the beginning. But if we can use the logic to analyze it, we can find out yon actually mean more than 24 hours, a period of time, or whatever God used that time to prepare the white milestone, the transformative uh, work that He has done in that particular yom
Right.
before the next one. Yeah, so uh,
I do
it makes
know. I do know. Ross was Hugh Ross, um, because he's an astronomer, but he's more than that. But he also witnesses to a lot of other scientists too. And
Mhm.
when he explains that not everybody believes, Christians especially, that the universe is only so many thousands of years old, that it's very old. It's the 13.8 billion. When he starts talking about that, yeah, a lot of scientists perk up and they're like, okay, well, tell me what that you're talking about, because that sounds intriguing, and it is. I got a question. There was a thing on the next page on 39. It says it talks about the moon miracle. Is that something we should talk about now, or is that something for the future?
Well, actually, we can cover in next uh, meeting, February, right? So today we only have a few more minutes. We may not have enough time to cover. And also, I wonder if you, in this so-called recording, can I use a PowerPoint or slide that will help sometime explain the moon miracle even better?
Let me find out between now and next month. I'll find out
Okay,
if we can bring a PowerPoint up there. That's a good question. So let me track that down. I'll find out
right.
about that. I
Let me
got
know.
another I got another question for you, but I want you to think about this.
Sure.
I was actually listening, reading about when human beings go into space, like they do in the space station, or like they did when they were walking on the moon. An interesting thing was discovered. Every time they went out into space and they came back into their capsule, there was a very strange smell that was on their space equipment. And they said it smelled like burnt meat. And it was like a sweet smell of burnt meat. And they're trying to figure out where this came from. Apparently, in space where it has a vacuum, there's a smell out there. Obviously, we can't go out there because if we did that without equipment on, it would kill us almost immediately, the vacuum. But this smell was all over their space suits when they came back in. And whenever they have gone into space, they've come back and this smell was all over their space equipment, their spacesuits and stuff like that. It was like they said, it was a sweet burnt meat smell. And the Russians even encountered it too when they were walking on the space station and stuff like that. So think about that. And then you give me your idea what you think that smell was coming from. I thought it was very intriguing because obviously there's a vacuum out there. How can there be a smell out there? But
Mm.
apparently there is. So it's like one of the mysteries out there. Okay, we have 1 minute left here. I'm going to take us away here. Give me a second. Um,
Hmm.
Let me get back to my main sheet. Okay. Yeah, next month will be very interesting. So I recommend everybody to come back in here. I can't get to it. Okay. Thank you, everybody who is here with us. Our next episode of Jaws Christ Talk with Alan will be aired in February. Um, and be sure to subscribe to our channel or page where you found us and check out our website to find out more about this and other shows. Until next time, wish you a productive and enjoyable week. Um, Alan, I'll see you next month.
Well, after you finish recording, I want to talk to you real quick.
Okay, got it.